How's it going, guys? How all you are doing? Welcome to a new video tutorial on the series of creating a draggable image uploader on React. So we are actually in the second part. So if you haven't actually watched the first part, I really recommend going ahead and watch it because it explains the basics, what we are doing, and the project setup. And we've just gone so far around that. We've created a couple of things. We created components. We configured it. And it's actually working. So you can probably, if we try to open up the HTML in here, if we try to use the opening default browser extension, if you don't have that extension, you can grab it from the extension store, which helps you just open up a normal HTML on your default browser. And this is what we have got working the last time. I'm just zooming into this one. You can clearly see it in the real zoom, but let me just zoom this in, so you can probably see it better. And this is what we have been working, but this is not functional yet. What we want right now is to add the functionality of this. So what we're going to do is just, be able to see something like this whenever we try to load an image or something. Let's say whenever we click that, we get the actual file picker, which let us choose a file. We choose a file. What we want is, after choosing a file, we get the file displayed in here, or the loaded file displayed in there, so we can probably see them. And obviously we can get rid of them or remove them if we don't really want to upload the file. And the last thing we're going to do is just click on the upload. We show up some really awesome progress bar on the file right there and tell it to upload into the server. Of course, the server is not actually intended to be shown in this particular story because a server could be anything, or on your backend side you can use anything like Nodejs, PHP, Python, so to handle this image. So the basic thing to go with is, after loading all the images, you're going to send an AJAX request holding all of the array of the images that you have loaded into your backend server. And obviously you can do the processing on your backend on your own. So we're not actually covering this one yet on this particular story. So now jumping off, let's go ahead and show pretty much what we're going to work on this tutorial. Obviously going to finish it, but we're going to work on the files preview container, which is going to, as I told you, holds the actual files. Once we load them into, let's say we pick a file, we need to show them in here, so they are going to be held in the actual container. So to work with the container, we're going to need to add a couple of an array on our state to hold that files. So going off into the state, I'm gonna add Lyoto files in here, and it's gonna be an array by default it's gonna be an empty array once the component is just rendered. And you're gonna have some functions that are gonna allow us to manipulate this array, add new files to that once we load a new file, or remove from it, or update an existing file exists in this particular array, updates its informations and stuff. And as you remember, the file has a couple of things actually, so we're gonna cover them in a little bit. So here, let me just show you what a file does have actually. So it's a const file. So after loading a file and everything, and we're gonna need to do this on the onLoad function once the file that we have requested, or that we have just chosen wants to upload, pretty much is this one. So it's gonna be an object. I'm in an object in here. So it's gonna be an object. It's gonna have a name first. I'm gonna go with the file.name. So this file instance is gonna be the actual file instance from the actual HTML API. So yeah, this is what we're actually doing. It's gonna have a size. We're gonna also go to the file size, so everything's being held there. The type, I am going to use file.type as well. So the type is gonna pretty much, for example, is gonna be image/PNG, or image JPEG, or image GIF, or something like this. So this is a type. If you have another file type, let's say a document, it's gonna be a doc or something. So it depends on the file type. So since we just using images, we're gonna just restrict it to use all the images. And the last thing we're gonna probably need is the actual data of the file. So the data is gonna pretty much holds the actual base64 image data, encoded data pretty much into the base64 encoding algorithm. So yeah, this is all we're gonna need to hold it in here, and in which the file reader.result, whenever we try to read it as a data URL, that means we're actually going to read the binary file of the image and convert it to base64 encoded data. So all we're gonna need to do in here is just call the file reader.result, and the base64 encoded data or image pixels is gonna be just put it into the data property for us. And after all, we're gonna need to call a function in here that are gonna allow us to take this file and add it into the actual the state or pretty much the loaded files array on the state. So we have to keep it in the state because we actually later on we're going to take this like array, the loaded files array on the state, and just loop on it or map on it in here and try to render each file or all pretty much files on the Dragon container. And the container in here, as you can probably tell in here, so we're going to need to render them like this. So without further ado, just go ahead and add these particular functions. I'm going to add like a couple of functions actually. So we're actually going to, let me say, so we're going to have a couple of functions. We're going to have the add Lyoto file. So as I told you, so this function is going to be a Lyoto file. It's going to be like, it takes a file, which is the file objects that we have put it in here, and it's just going to add it to the array. As simple as that. All it does is just going to go and call the state with the previous state, and as you know, like the set state function has two definitions. So the first one is just like accepting only objects, and the second one accepting a callback. On the callback, you get pretty much the previous state passed into your function or your callback, so you can probably use it. And what we can do with the previous state is just go ahead and say to Lyoto files, the loaded files array, and go to the previous state and say Lyoto files. And obviously, as you know, this is like the the like concatenation with an ESX, so or React, pretty much since you're using React on ESX, you can do this concatenation. It's pretty good. What it means is just going to take this array, since it's an array in the previous state, and we are actually going to create a new array, but concatenates the other files that already exist in Lyoto files. If it doesn't, it's just going to like put nothing in there, just an empty thing. But if it does have files already registered into this one, so I'm just going to concatenate it with this one, and we are actually going to add a new file that we are intending to, which is the file object that holds the name, the size, the type, and obviously the data, the base 64 data encoded. So this is all we're going to do to be the add Lyoto file. The other one is just like remove Lyoto file, or let me just go ahead and remove Lyoto file. Obviously, you're gonna take the actual file that we have, like Lyoto and things. But for the remove Lyoto file, we're gonna need to do a couple of things. So we need to remove file from the state in here. What we've got to do is basically we're going to use the same function like this .setState, which takes a callback, since we're going to need the previous state, which holds pretty much the previous Lyoto files on the state. And as I've said, this is takes a callback. So after taking callback, how to assign the actual new object to the state is basically just by returning the objects in here, and after like do some processing in here, whatever, like blah blah blah, whatever, and you obviously or finally gonna just return an object that pretty much holds the states. In this case, we're gonna return like Lyoto files, and it's just gonna like apply this object into the sales and update the states perfectly with no problems. So if you're not familiar with that, there you go, you've got a new knowledge in React. But as I've told you before, you're going to need to like have a brief knowledge with React and brief experience with it in order to understand what we're actually doing in here, because it might be a little bit hard for you or a little bit hard to understand what we're actually doing. So yeah, without further ado, let's just go ahead and try to get the actual Lyoto files. We're going to do with the previous states .Lyoto files. So we are actually referencing the Lyoto files in here. The other thing we're going to need to do, I believe we're going to use LoDash for this job. So I don't have LoDash actually installed in this one. What we're going to probably need to do is just go ahead and install LoDash. So if you don't know what is LoDash, LoDash is pretty much a utility module that has plenty of functions or plethora of functions that allow you to manipulate like arrays, collections, objects, search for arrays or search for elements in the arrays, and so on and so forth. So yeah, it's like _JS. So if you're not familiar with _JS or LoDash, you're probably just gonna go ahead and need to take a quick look or refresh your I don't know. So yeah, we're gonna need to install LoDash. I'm gonna use the DDD, which just gonna give us some hints or like just gonna show us what it's doing behind the scenes. Now it has been actually installed successfully. All we're gonna need to do is just like go ahead and import it. So import LoDash from LoDash. Just import this as in like an object. It holds functions and methods. Since it's an object, so we can probably call it methods, but you still can call it functions since it hasn't like a class behavior or something. So here what we're gonna do is I'm gonna call this and I'm gonna call this like new Lyoto files, and it's gonna like use the LoDash, or I should have better told this or named this like an underscore, because it's a LoDash. This is what it means, and to like make it easier for us to access it and call it. So I'm just gonna use this LoDash. I'm gonna use the filter function. The filter functions pretty much takes the collection, which is in this case our array. So our Lyoto files array, and it takes like a callback. So the callback, the first thing it takes as a callback, it pretty much takes the Lyoto files. So you first give it the Lyoto file, or the Lyoto file pretty much, and the second one is the index. In this case, we don't need the index, so we can just go ahead and just, you know, like just go to that. This is the Lyoto file, so it's gonna go ahead and loop through it. And what we're gonna need to do is like return true or false. I'm gonna return Lyoto file not equals to file. So once the Lyoto file, this one, the current elements we are looping on, and the file that we have or we want actually to remove, since this doesn't like, you know, equal to each other, which means this is going to return false, what we're going to do is just like, you know, return this Lyoto file into this new Lyoto file. So this new Lyoto file is going to be like, you know, added into the new Lyoto files array, and just save it right there. And once we've hit the actual file that we want to remove, it just like discard, and nothing going to be pushed into this array. So this array eventually is going to end up like an array holding all of the elements or all of the files, but the file we want to remove. So this is the filter function. This is what it does. You can do a hell of a lot of things with it, but if you really want like you know, to have a brief introduction with LoDash and all of its functionalities, you can just go to lodash.com. On the documentation, it has pretty self-explanatory documentation to get it started with. So this is all I can probably tell you about this. So I'm just gonna say Lyoto files in here, and it's gonna say no Lyoto files. So to update the state, and as simple as that, this should pretty much work for us perfectly, since we have got this pretty right. And the other thing we're gonna need to cover is remove all Lyoto files. So it's just gonna be like removing all the Lyoto files, and we're gonna simply just go ahead and call this dot set state. You can't quality type in this set state. So I'm gonna say Lyoto files, and it's just gonna be like an empty array. So just like delete all of the Lyoto files. So this is like a quick function for doing this. It's pretty self-explanatory, as I told you before. Now, once the file is like being Lyoted successfully, so on the Lyote callback in here, what we've got to do is just like add file. So I'm gonna call this dot add Lyoted file, and as you know, the add Lyoted file function or method pretty much, it takes the actual file thing. So we're gonna need to add it, and I'm just gonna call this and, you know, add it right over there. So simple enough. Now we need to go ahead and do the rendering process. So we're gonna need to map into this array, and first things first, let me just go ahead and grab this one. So I'm just gonna say const, I'm gonna say Lyoto files from the state. So this is how you can reference things from your states and your props. It's pretty good convention to use. So you can just, rather than just calling this dot set state dot Lyoto files, you can just go ahead and reference it on the top of your rendering function. You can use it right there if you try to render with it, or like use it on the logical side. So I'm gonna say here Lyoto files dot map, and this is a function, or this is actually an array, so we can use the map method, and the map method takes a callback. So the first thing we're gonna take is pretty much the actual file that we have where we want to Lyote, and the second thing is the actual index. So what we've got to do is just like return, and pretty much very simply return a dev with a class name of a file. So I don't know why the linting is not working, but we can do this like manually. We can assign the class name, as I told you, the file, and we're gonna need to like give it a key for an index, so React can optimize this and render it properly for us. And inside this, we're gonna like need a couple of other elements to organize the actual file you're actually seeing. So the first thing, we're gonna like the main image. So it's gonna be pretty much an image in here. For the src of this image is gonna hold the file.data. So the file.data is gonna represent the base64, as I told you, the base64 encoded image data pixels. So yeah, this is what you could probably just go ahead and call it. The second thing we're going to need is a div container that holds the progress bar. The progress bar is going to show us the uploading state whenever we try to upload it or something. So we can add this as a div as well. It's going to be a class name of container. It's going to be another thing is going to take the span. So the span is going to hold the actual progress bar. So I'm going to call this progress-bar. and it's gonna take the file that is uploading, and I'm gonna add this in a second. So if the file is uploading and the progress bar component is actually coming from the blueprint.js. So I'm just gonna go ahead and include this in a second. And the last thing we're gonna probably just go ahead and do the final span, which is gonna be the remove button, or the button that show us the actual delete to remove the loaded pretty much image. So this is gonna be a span. It's gonna have a class name of remove-btn, and it's gonna hold an icon. Now this icon, it could be anything. So you can use, like, I don't know, your own library for loading icon or something. But I have one library, very special library, that holds a hell of a lot of other, a lot of them actually, of all the libraries and, like, you know, frameworks around icons, like Fun Awesome, Icon Moon, you know, Material Design, Ionic, and plenty of other things that holds them all together in one single place with a really awesome API. It's called the React Icons Kit. So you can just go ahead and use it by installing npm install -save React Icons Kit. I've already done this, so all I'm gonna need to do in here is just simply importing this. So as I've told you in here, make sure to go ahead and, like, you know, import the progress bar from blueprint.js core, and I'm just gonna, like, import the icon from React, so icons kits. And if you can just go ahead to the font awesome, let's say we're going to use the font awesome in this particular case. I'm going to need to use the remove. I'm just going to search for remove. Here we go. We've got remove. So this is from where you can just go ahead, like, and import this remove icon. Pretty good. So let's go ahead and import this, copy it, paste it, and we've got the remove icon in here. So all we're going to need to do is just go ahead and use it on this particular component. And the most important thing is support React, so you can use it really nicely. Now we're going to need to supply the icon is going to be removing here. I'm going to give it, like, a quick size. I'm just going to give it, like, about 19, so 19 pixels. You can specify the size as well. And yeah, this is all you're gonna probably need to do. The other thing we're gonna need to do is just, you know, assign the onClick function to it. So whenever we click this one, what we want is to remove the current file. And for removing the current file, all we're gonna need to do is just, like, you know, call this remove Lyoto file, and we're gonna need to pass it the current file that we're actually, you know, rendering or something, and it should work pretty much fine for us. With no problems pretty much. So yeah, this is all we're going to need to do. So simple enough. Now if we try to go ahead and hopefully this will work for us from the first try. I don't know, but I don't feel this will work from the first try, because, you know, nothing works from the first try in programming and web development, or whatever you actually in field you're doing on. But let's go ahead and try to, I don't know, use this thumbnail. It kind of telling me the cannot read property name of defined on the app.js, and I believe this is happening from the file.name, so it couldn't pretty much find the file.name. Well, I don't know, but okay, let's go ahead and just discard the name since we don't need it for the rendering process. All we're gonna need to do also just go ahead and get rid of the size, get rid of the okay. I need to keep the size. I know that the size is right there and the type is right there, but I'm not really sure about the other ones. So I'm just going to get rid of the name and keep the other ones for a second and try this again. Try to layer this one, but we've got size of undefined as well. So file is kind of undefined. I don't know why, but also I'm going to get rid of that. So I'm just going to keep the data right there. And I'm going to add the other property is uploading. We're just going to set it into a false. Since it's not uploading, what we're going to do is whenever we click the upload button, we're going to show this state, and we can probably manipulate it, like show it and hide it once it's being uploaded from the server. This is all being done in the behind the scenes on your server side, actually on your backend. So it's not actually you know, related about the front end, but here we go. So this is actually working. As I've told you before, the style actually is doing all of the things. It's showing the remove button and everything. So we are actually assigning a customer classes. And as I told you before, the style.scss has all of that. So if you didn't actually grab this, go back into the last video tutorial. I've got everything in there, and you can probably find everything and just copy and paste into a style .sas file or whatever, and you can get that working for you right out of the box. So yeah, this is a very important step. So as you can see in here, and if you try to click that, we get this right away with the remove functions. We are actually assigning the onClick in here. So to get it removed, you can pretty much add more than one in here. and I don't know, but this doesn't seem working pretty much fine. But let's go ahead and try to browse, put the API. It gives us the API over there. The Ajax, it does it pretty well, so it works pretty much fine, as you can probably tell, with no problems. One other thing I want to mention for you guys is the actual, I've added like a couple of other scroll bar, specific scroll bar style in here. So a scroll bar is pretty much the actual scroll bar that allows you to scroll vertically or horizontally on the page, this one. So you can, you know, go ahead and like customize it with your own style rather than just this really horrible style. So I've added that. It's ip.scrollbar with the class name, so it adds a really awesome scroll bar. So what we're gonna need to do in here is just go ahead and use this on the actual files preview container. I'm just gonna say ip.scrollbar so we can probably use it. So I'm adding like an overflow, so this one gets a lot of files loaded in here, so you can get or a new scroll bar is going to be showing in here, so you can scroll between your files and you can see actually what files do you have on the actual Lyoto stack in here, what files you have Lyoto pretty much. So simple enough. This is all we're going to need to do for now. So as you probably see, this is actually working with no problems. You can use it. You can drag and drop like files in here and it works pretty much fine with no problems. Now the last thing we're going to need to cover is on upload. So whenever we click the upload button, this button, so file input doc, not this one. This one I meant is on the onClick, so we're going to need to take care of the onClick function. So whenever we want to click is we're going to like add a function that handles this. So on upload, I'm going to add this method kind of be called on upload. I need to like, you know, bind into the specific context, which is the this class context. And fair enough, let me just go ahead and add this right above this one. So on upload, and it's going to take care of uploading the actual file. So this is the function. So whenever we click the green button in this one, so whenever we click this one, what we're going to need to do is show up a really small like progress bar from the Blueprint.js. In here you can go to the Blueprint.js and you can probably tell what progress bar I mean, and you can see that really easily in there. So it could show the user, it gives it a little bit of like UI and UX to show the user, to let the user know that we are actually currently uploading it to the server. So let's go ahead and clearly see this on upload. So the on upload pretty much is going to be like loops on the Lyoto file. So I'm just going to go ahead and like, you know, reference that as I did before. So Lyoto files from the state equals this dot state. So rather than just, you know, keep using this or something. And what we're going to do is on Lyoto files. So I'm going to say Lyoto files .map, and we're going to use the map function for this one. So the map is actually a callback function. It takes the actual file and the index of it, as we did before. Now what we want is pretty much, you know, like we can use a promise. We can send like a request to a server in here. So this is where you pretty much need to send a request to your server to each file. You send this server request telling it, you know, you've got this image data, upload it please, and the server is going to respond, and you can carry on and so on and so forth. You can upload the whole images just by going ahead and do this one by looping into the loaded files pretty quickly in here. So you can use like, you can provide another API or something. It could be like really simple, but what we're actually going to do in here is we're going to use the actual file. Let's say I'm going to like use the set timeout method. The set timeout is going to, you know, like let us simulate a server trying to upload something, because we're not going to send it to the server or something, but the set timeout is going to like run a callbacks for us on a specific time duration. So let's say about 3 seconds, you can go ahead and run this one. So for this one, what we're going to need to do is we're going to go ahead and call this .update. We haven't added that yet, so let's go ahead and add this one really quickly. So on the top right over here, or right above the only on upload, what we're going to need to do is update Lyoto up. So I'm just going to like pass into a file, and it needs to update with old file and new file. So we've got like updated with something, or, you know, whatever you can probably tell you want to do with this one. So you can just go ahead and update it really quickly with no problems. So for the on the update function, what it does is, let me just see that quickly in there. So we're gonna use the sys.setState as we did before. So the set state, we're gonna use the previous state in there. So simple enough as we did a couple of times actually for the set state and the previous state for all the different things. We're gonna just go ahead and const reference Lyoto files. And in this case, we're not going to just directly load this, but we're going to just use the spread syntax in here to previous state dots Lyoto files. So what do you mean by this? We're going to create a brand new array out of the old array. So it holds the same things, but this is going to be like referencing a new array rather than referencing the previous state Lyoto array, because we're actually going to mutate this one. So also what we're going to probably use is the find method from the LoDash. As I've told you before, I'm going to need to pass it in the actual thing, unless the filter function or unless the filter method, this one mutates an actual array, but the other one doesn't actually mutate an array. So yeah, you can probably say safe about pretty much the other one. So I'm going to say this is a file and it's an index, but we don't actually need an index. So let's just go ahead and get rid of that. For the file, we're going to need to go ahead and look for the file and see if the actual old file equals a new file. So or the current file pretty much, I don't mean the actual one. So if this one equals to the old file, so if the currently holding file we're actually looping equals to the old file, we're actually just simply gonna mutate this one. I'm gonna say Lyoto files dot file, and it's gonna equal to new file. So this is how you can pretty much mutate something. And finally, as I've told you before, I'm just gonna return Lyoto files. And since the name matches with the Lyoto files and Lyoto files, we can just use a key, and ESX is smart enough to know that. So yeah, fair enough. This is all we're gonna need to do for updating a file, just by checking if it does equal to the old file. Then just mutate it, or simply change that. Now what we're gonna need to do is whenever we try to do this, we're gonna first go ahead this dot update Lyoto file. For the update Lyoto file, we're gonna pass in the file, and the new file is gonna take the same thing as a file. So we're gonna use this spread syntax, but instead of that, we're gonna use set the is uploading into true. So since we're gonna just let it know that it is pretty much uploading, and this uploaded files function or method pretty much needs to return something. It needs actually to return the Lyoto files, for setting the states, but in here we actually gonna need to return the new file, so we can probably use it later on for the actual thing, so we can update it over again. So we're gonna need to return the new file in here, and on the upload here I'm gonna expect a new file, so equals this one. And on the set timeout of 3 seconds, let's say we want to simulate that the server has uploaded and everything, has uploaded this image successfully. So what we could probably need to do is just simply update the file over again and just hide the progress bar. So update Lyoto file. This time the old file represent the new file, since we have mutated it, as you remember, and the new file is gonna pretty much go with a file, or go with a new file. So it's just pretty simple actually. If this feels a little bit I don't know, frustrating, or you can't probably figure this out how it works, it's quite simple. All we're gonna need to do is just trigger the is uploading by changing this to true, and after we get the reference into the new file, so then it represents the old file in the context of changing it on the state, then we just try to change it back into is uploading false, and we are actually done with this one. So simple enough. Hopefully this will work for us. Pretty much, successfully with no problems. So I don't know about this one, but it could fail very hardly. So let me just go ahead and refresh that really quickly. I'm not using the dev server or something, but let's just go ahead and try this one. For example, try to click on upload, but I think this is actually not working as we expected it to be. And one thing actually we were missing is I was using the file in here and actually to reference that on the array and changing it, but instead we need to use the index, since this is actually an array that holds it in an index it as an index, or with the numbers, so as keys. And pretty much, so you're gonna need to use the index from the find method and just reference that and change it to the new file. Simple enough. And here you can probably just go ahead and save it quickly and go back in here, refresh that really quick, and let's say we want to just test that once more. We're gonna go with the API explain and everything, We try to upload that, and here we go. So you can probably see we've got some progress bars, and there we go after 3 seconds, since we have set the timeout to go with 3 seconds. And this is just like for, simulating real web server doing image uploading or something. So let's say you have like a server and this is doing the image uploading. So you can do a hell of a lot of things like in here. After the image is uploaded, or if there is any errors, you can show a blueprint toast or something. This is actually a task for you. So let's say there's an error in here in uploading. What you want, if there's any error or something, you want to show like a toast. What do you mean by toast? On the blueprint, there's a toast component that shows you this really awesome toast on the top. So let's say like an error, or if you have a success thing, it shows you that like error for info or something, you can show that. So this is a task for you. You can just go ahead and implement it by yourself. Let's say you have an error or something, in case you have an error. So that was actually for today's tutorial. That was actually for the part 2. We finished the series pretty much. You can add more things to this one. You can contribute into the actual GitHub repo. You can find all the changes in there and the whole source code right over there. So make sure to go ahead and check it out on the description below. So thank you guys for watching the episode again. I will catch you all hopefully in the next tutorial.